Sunday, March 18th, 2002, Skydome, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, WrestleMania 18. Let's rebook the show right here on the No Nation Wrestling YouTube channel. What is going on, guys? Before we get into today's video, I want to remind you that every single No Nation Wrestling video is available on audio platforms Apple, Google, Spotify, and more, linked down below. We are back with a rebooking today, and we're going to be rebooking WrestleMania 18. I'm sure we'll probably do one or two more WrestleManias on the road to WrestleMania in the beginning of April. We already did rebook WrestleMania 27 recently, so you guys can go check that up in the cards. But WrestleMania 18, man, see, Mania 18, 2002, honestly, a WrestleMania that I can go back, watch the whole thing, and enjoy. You obviously look at this WrestleMania and remember it for one reason, that being Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus The Rock, icon versus icon. But everyone obviously knows that matchup kind of was the secondary matchup because Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold weren't there to do business with each other. Let's put it that way. So I wanted to take on the task of rebooking WrestleMania 18. But see, here's the thing. I wanted to take on the task of rebooking WrestleMania 18 with the notion that still Austin and Hogan didn't want to work with each other. Like, honestly, that's the easy thing to do. Like, all right, rebook WrestleMania 18, Austin versus Hogan in the main event. I could have easily done that. But, you know, like I said in my Mania 27, rebooking, I like to do things a little bit differently. So we are not going to be booking Austin versus Hogan on this show. We're pretending that they still don't want to put each other over, or not necessarily that there's heat, but they both want to win, whatever the story was. Point is, we're going to pretend like that's still a thing, and we're still going to try to top to bottom remake WrestleMania 18 into an overall better show. Because like I said, I still do think it's a good show, but I think when you look back, there's kind of a lot of matches on there that were just kind of thrown together, and I think you could really redo that card with all the same talent and make it a lot better, in my personal opinion. So we'll be rebooking WrestleMania 18. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so we have 10 matches total on this show. I believe there was 9 or 10 in real life, so staying around the same pace. We will kick things off with a simple one-on-one matchup, that being Booker T versus Rob Van Dam. I didn't do a lot of these matches. We got multiple of them on WrestleMania 18 in real life. Booker versus Edge. We got Kurt Angle versus Kane, but I tried to stick more in line with championships and bigger storylines, but I wanted to get these two major names on the show. So Booker T versus RVD. Booker T blames RVD for the fall of the alliance, saying RVD didn't really have his head in the game. He was too much worried about his own, popularity during the alliance angle, WCW, ECW, and WWF back at Survivor Series, which aided the alliance in losing that matchup and WCW and ECW falling apart. So there's a little history between both of them there. And then, if you want to add fuel to the fire, RVD can eliminate Booker T from the Royal Rumble or something like that. But just a simple one-on-one matchup here. Again, not going too crazy with the stories. Just Booker versus RVD, one-on-one to kick off WrestleMania 18. Both of which having their first WrestleMania, of course, which makes it even better. All right, your second matchup on the show, the World Wrestling Federation World Tag Team Championships on the line. The Dudley Boys, Bubba Ray and Devon, with Spike in their corner, defending against the Un-Americans, Lance Storm and William Regal, with Test in their corner. Now, this is, of course, the Un-Americans would be forming in real life a little bit earlier, because I believe they didn't get together towards the spring, or fully get together with Christian, the whole nine, till spring, summertime, really full effect in summertime, but really spring is when the Un-Americans, slowly started to form in WWF and then turning WWE. But I would just, have them get together a little bit more in real life, and they want to take home all the gold. They want to take home all the gold in Canada, in their home country at WrestleMania 18. So they're going to target the Dudley Boys here and obviously try to bring home the World Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania. So a little bit of storyline going on in this matchup. Spike Dudley and Test, of course, not involved in the matchup. They are managers in their prospective tag team corners. They get in a little brawl at ringside, which distracts the referee. This allows the current European champion Christian to run into the ring. He can come through the crowd, crack Bubba Ray or Devon, doesn't matter who, with a championship over the head, allowing the Un-Americans to score the pinfall on whichever Dudley boy. And the Un-Americans, William Regal and Lance Storm, win the World Tag Team Championships in Canada. Obviously, Lance Storm test Canadians, William Regal not, but doesn't matter. And obviously, you got Christian there, who will be involved in the show later on in a high stakes matchup as well. So Christian aiding the Un-Americans in winning the World Tag Team Championships against the Dudley Boys at WrestleMania 18. All right, we got a big matchup coming up next, so I'm going to run down the storyline before we actually reveal the matchup over here. So Ric Flair, after he defeats Vince McMahon in the street fight at the Royal Rumble, he appears on Monday Night Raw the next night, only to be confronted by a returning Paul Heyman, who of course had not been seen since the fall of the Alliance at Survivor Series. Heyman reams out Flair for waiting until after Survivor Series to finally come back to the World Wrestling Federation, saying maybe if he wasn't so self-centered, you goddamn nature boy, maybe he would have helped the Alliance win it all and have ultimate control, and WWF wouldn't have won the battle of the Alliance and versus the Alliance at Survivor Series. Heyman says he may have lost his job, but he has a new one. He is now the manager for the hottest free agent in the world, and that man will single-handedly destroy Ric Flair for everything he's got left. Brock Lesnar comes from the crowd, hits the ring, destroys Ric Flair with an F5, bloodies him, and lays him out. And we get Brock Lesnar debuting on the main roster Monday Night Raw a little bit earlier than he did. He, of course, debuted the night after WrestleMania 18 on Raw. I would have him show up the night after the Royal Rumble. Not much, that honestly, not even a full 2 months difference is going to make for Brock Lesnar. Obviously, he was ready. Obviously, had an amazing year in 2002. And technically, I'm just starting it early here. So Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman join up the night after the Royal Rumble, and they take out Ric Flair. Flair goes out till about after No Way Out, then returns and attacks Brock Lesnar and challenges him, to a match at WrestleMania. So we get Brock Lesnar versus Ric Flair. Brock already in a high-profile match since, already in his early WWE career. And that would kind of be the basis of the storyline here. Really, Paul Heyman kicking it off versus Ric Flair and then bringing in Brock Lesnar to do his dirty work. And, of course, Brock Lesnar would have to get the win in his first big WrestleMania matchup against the Nature Boy. That would just already, like I said, he had an awesome 2002 King of the Ring, Undisputed Championship, all that stuff. But we're just starting it early here and giving him a major win over Ric Flair. And I believe they even did this match on Raw a couple of times after the draft in 2002. So again, we're just doing it early. Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman versus Ric Flair to continue WrestleMania 18. Next up on the card, pretty high profile matchup here. I told you guys Christian was in a big time matchup on WrestleMania 18, and we're kind of going a little bit similar to our WrestleMania 27 booking here, kind of taking some stuff, multiple things from that match card and kind of interluding it into this, and that being the winner takes all matchup. This, however, will be between the European champion Christian versus the Intercontinental champion Edge. So Christian, a member of the Un-Americans, wants even more gold in the group. They're going to be targeting the Dudley Boys at WrestleMania for the tag team titles, which of course they end up winning, but this is in the build-up towards that. So they're targeting the Dudley Boys for the tag team titles. Christian's the European champion. Edge currently the Intercontinental champion. We're talking, of course, January, February here. So he tries to recruit his old best friend. He's not even trying to beat him for that Intercontinental champion yet, or have Test, who is, obviously not involved in WrestleMania, just in that manager perspective, go after the title. Christian and the Un-Americans want to recruit Edge to their group, being a fellow Canadian, which of course Edge just keeps turning him down and keeps turning him down. He ain't having it. Eventually, Un-Americans and Christian have enough of it. They beat the hell out of Edge and say, you know what, if you're not going to join us, we're going to take your title. And we end up getting title for title, European Championship versus Intercontinental Championship, both belts on the line, former best friends in Toronto at WrestleMania 18, Christian versus Edge. I think it's going to would be a great match, would have been a great story with both belts on the line, a lot hanging in the balance, and of course this would be a major win for Edge to come out on top and not only retain the Intercontinental Championship, but win the European title. If you guys remember, Edge defeated Booker T in non-title action. There was no titles on the line at WrestleMania 18 in real life, and Christian was involved in the European title match versus DDP, which he lost. So I think both of them, mostly Christian, getting a better spot on WrestleMania 18 here. A lot more high profile of a matchup, belt for belt, and I would have Edge, the good guy, coming out in his hometown and winning both championships. I think it would be an awesome story leading up to WrestleMania, and I think it would be a great match on the show itself. So that is the fourth match on the card for my rebooking of WrestleMania 18. Next up on the show, we have a major tag team matchup going down. The NWO, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall versus the Brothers of Destruction, Kane and The Undertaker. NWO debuts at No Way Out, just as they did in real life, of course, alongside with Hollywood Hulk Hogan. The two men who don't take too kindly to their attempt at a hostile takeover over the World Wrestling Federation are two guys who just got done defending it versus the Alliance a couple of months ago at Survivor Series, that being the Brothers of Destruction, Kane and The Undertaker, who alongside another man, which we'll talk about, take major issue with the NWO, as I mentioned. Hulk Hogan will have his hands full with that other person later in the night, but Kane and The Undertaker want to continue to protect their yard from this outsider poison trying to poison the World Wrestling Federation. It will be Kane and The Undertaker versus the NWO at WrestleMania. Undertaker faced Ric Flair in real life. Kane faced Kurt Angle. Obviously, Taker and Flair was a pretty good matchup. Kane and Angle, honestly, none of these singles matches that I'm kind of reworking here for WrestleMania 18 were bad matches. Like I said at the beginning of this, I thoroughly enjoy it. I could sit down and watch WrestleMania, and I think it's a good show. I just think overall, card-wise, with the talent that's there, I think it could have been done better, which is what we're trying to do here. And I think this puts NWO in a more prominent spot. Scott Hall faced Stone Cold Steve Austin on this show. Kevin Nash did not work. He might have been injured. I'm not exactly sure. I could probably look it up and find out, but doesn't matter right here. So obviously we're just fantasy booking anyway. If he was injured in real life, don't sue me. Again, we're just fantasy booking here, but immediately, NWO coming in at No Way Out, and then immediately going into WrestleMania, Nash and Hall side by side versus Kane and The Undertaker, something we had not seen. Obviously, Taker worked both of these guys before they left to go to WCW. Well, I don't remember Taker versus Razor Ramon off the top of my head, but obviously him and Diesel had run-ins. But point is, this is a completely different era, and the NWO coming back to WWF, facing two of the WWF's heaviest hitters in this epic tag team matchup at WrestleMania, I think would be great. And honestly, WrestleMania 18 is kind of where they slowly started acknowledging the streak for The Undertaker. I believe this was his 10th win at WrestleMania. I believe even after the Ric Flair match, he counted on his own hand 10 wins at WrestleMania. So him and Kane get this one side by side and, of course, defeat Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. We would have the Women's Championship on the line. Jazz defending against Trish Stratus. This was actually a triple threat match in real life with Lita, but I just think it's a lot cleaner of a card with just a one-on-one matchup between Jazz and Trish. Trish being from Canada, a hometown reception in Toronto, if you will. And maybe she wins, maybe she doesn't. She didn't win in real life. I believe Jazz retained the championship of WrestleMania 18. But point is, we're going to keep the Women's Championship on the card. I just think it looks better overall, and just puts more emphasis on the story of Trish trying to come home to her hometown and win the Women's Championship with just her in there versus Jazz and not having Lita involved. Coincidentally enough, both of those women on Monday Night Raw this week. Lita winning the women's tag titles with Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus returning. God, I love seeing Trish Stratus on my television. But nonetheless, Trish versus Jazz, we're going to leave that on the card for WrestleMania 18 in 2002. Alright, so remember what I said in the beginning of this video. We are booking this as if Stone Cold versus Hulk Hogan was still not on the table, and we're just trying to rework all of WrestleMania 18 and not specifically just the main event. So up next, we have a no-holds-barred matchup between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H. Now, previously, before Triple H went out with injury in 2001, as you guys know, Austin was the World Wrestling Federation champion. Triple H was the Intercontinental champion, also holding the tag team gold. The two-man power trip was taking over the WWF until Triple H got injured. So we are going to not necessarily pick up where they left off as a team, but we're going to bring Triple H back in 2002 and have them go face-to-face at WrestleMania for the first time. Obviously, they had wrestled, but this will be the first time they face off at WrestleMania. So Triple H makes his return. I said in the Royal Rumble match, but honestly, that could be his in-ring return. He can come back on Raw, whatever. Honestly, and still get that whole babyface reaction. But, in comparison to Stone Cold, people aren't going to have any problem, booing Triple H and cheering Stone Cold. So we'll get to that. But Triple H makes his return in the Royal Rumble matchup, only to be eliminated by his other half of the two-man power trip, that being Stone Cold Steve Austin. And for weeks, Triple H is kind of, okay, you eliminate me, you got the best of me. Triple H and Austin are kind of buddy-buddy up until No Way Out. Stone Cold Steve Austin goes one-on-one with the current undisputed WWF champion, which we'll talk more about this, that being Kurt Angle. Austin versus Angle in the main event of No Way Out. Austin gets screwed over by Triple H, and in the weeks leading, the night after, whatever, Triple H says, you know what, Austin, you took away the Royal Rumble match from me. You took away the World Wrestling Federation Championship, a shot at that title at WrestleMania from me. I'm taking away the same thing from you. And you know what? All those months I had to sit at home, nursing my injury, watching you almost crumble the World Wrestling Federation by joining the Alliance, stabbing everybody in the back. I sat home and watched all that. Now I'm back and you're trying to stab me in the back, somebody who was your friend. I'm not doing it. You took away my WWF Championship match. I took that same thing away from you. And now at WrestleMania 18, no holds barred, I'm going to beat the hell out of you, Stone Cold, and you are going to feel the pain that I felt rehabbing my injury for 8-9 months, whatever it was. Correct me in the comments. And he's going to beat his ass at WrestleMania, plain and simple. And again, like I mentioned, I would have that, friendly Triple H and Austin for weeks between Rumble and No Way Out. But after No Way Out, after Triple H cost Austin the championship, Austin, of course, ain't having none of it. He's going right after Triple H, beating the hell out of him. He's got no problem taking this fight to WrestleMania and taking care of business once and for all. So no holds barred, Triple H versus Stone Cold Steve Austin on the grandest stage of them all. Gonna have a little cool down matchup here. I did not forget about some of these mid-card talents. We're gonna have ourselves a good old 20-man battle royal for the WWF Hardcore Championship. You can have weapons involved in this thing, whatever you want. And honestly, one of my favorite parts of WrestleMania 18 is how many times they just cut around the Hardcore Championship changing hands. You had Hurricane winning it, Molly Holly winning it, Christian winning it, Maven, all that stuff. I believe Maven walks into Mania as the champ. I believe he leaves as the champ as well, but there's like 5 or 6 title changes in between. It's chaos, but obviously we're just reworking things here. Hell, maybe you could have some of that chaos leading up to the Battle Royal. I don't know, but 20 men for the championship, hardcore title that is. You got Maven, of course, the champion, Al Snow, Big Boss Man, The Big Show, Billy, aka Billy Kidman, or Billy Gunn, excuse me. You would also have Billy Kidman in there, who's the Cruiserweight champion. Bradshaw, Chuck, aka Chuck Palumbo, Crash Holly, Diamond Dallas Page, Farouk, Goldust, The Hurricane, Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, Raven, Rhino, Rikishi, Scotty 2 Hotty, and Tajiri. Who walks out? Pick your choice, because it's just a filler matchup that we put on here to cool down the crowd and have some fun and get the Hardys and Big Show on the show, even though it wasn't the most important thing in the world. But you know what? There was a hardcore title match legitimately on the card at WrestleMania 18, so I felt the need to put one on here as well, not just be like, oh, well, there's backstage segments going on. We need an actual hardcore title match, and pick your choice. Maybe Crash Holly wins the title. All right, maybe the Big Show wins the title. Maybe Farouk wins the title. Doesn't matter here. We're not rebooking 2002. We're rebooking one night. So pick your choice. Let's move on. World Wrestling Federation Championship matchup. The undisputed champion Kurt Angle defends against the 2002 Royal Rumble match winner Y2J Chris Jericho. So Jericho, you remember at Survivor Series in 2001, Kurt Angle actually hit Stone Cold Steve Austin with the WWF Championship, kind of realigning himself with the WWF. So instead, Chris Jericho, who was already on Team WWF, and of course Stone Cold was on the Alliance side, Jericho hits Austin with the WWF title, not Angle, just to kind of solidify, Jericho helping out WWF. And Jericho was still a babyface. Correct me if I'm wrong. At the time, he did not turn heel until after Survivor Series, or whatever the case was, leading up to Vengeance. Sometime at the end of 2001, I don't have the exact date on my mind, but point is, he was still a babyface leading up for the most part. I would keep him, obviously, as a babyface. Kurt Angle ends up winning the Undisputed Championship at Vengeance 2001 by defeating Stone Cold, then The Rock. So we're taking away that legendary line from Chris Jericho of I beat The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin in the same damn night. We're giving that to Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle walks away Vengeance 2001, the new Undisputed champion. So Chris Jericho never turns heel, but instead continues to become one of the top baby faces of the WWF, going on to win the 2002 Royal Rumble match. Angle, on the other hand, the man who almost helped put WWF out of business, now is on top as the Undisputed champion, and he will defend against Chris Jericho at WrestleMania. Major matchup for the WWF title. I think a more appealing match than Jericho versus Triple H. Not that Jericho versus Triple H was a bad matchup or a bad feud, but, obviously the match itself got hindered by the fact that the crowd was dead for it, to no fault of their own. Obviously, they just watched Hogan versus The Rock. But I think this is just an overall better use of Jericho, Angle, Triple H, all in their entirety at WrestleMania 18. It's just what I would do. I mean, Jericho versus Angle, who does not want to see that? It'd be just as good as, Angle versus Benoit's matches over the year. And obviously we got in Jericho versus Angle, but this would be their biggest match to date, possibly biggest match ever in the co-main event to WrestleMania 18. And Jericho winning the Royal Rumble, I would have him win the Undisputed Championship at WrestleMania 18, dethroning Kurt Angle, who won the title back at Vengeance, like I said. I think it'll be a great matchup. Jericho, also a fellow Canadian, wins the title in Canada. That I honestly didn't even do on purpose. Like the whole Edge and Christian thing I did on purpose. The Un-American things I did on purpose. I took Lita out of the matchup to focus more on Trish on purpose. But here I just wanted to book Jericho in this. I thought it was a good idea. And then afterwards I was like, oh, look at that. He even gets the title win in Canada too. It all works out. But that's what I'll do for the WWF title match at WrestleMania 18. Chris Jericho defeating Kurt Angle. And in the main event, like I said, we're pretending we can't book Hogan versus Austin. It makes it a little bit too easy. So I kept Hogan versus The Rock. Why? Because it was still freaking awesome. One of the most iconic matches of all time. Literally, icon versus icon. And I would strategically put it on last because it should have gone on last in the first place. Yeah, that. Then I believe the women's title match was after it. Or the tag team title match, I forget the exact order, and then they put the Undisputed Championship match on, but obviously everybody knows the crowd was gassed after Hogan versus Rock. I mean, you go back and watch it. I literally just watched it like 2 weeks ago. I watched like half this show 2 weeks ago, but I specifically focused on Hogan versus Rock, and the crowd is losing their mind through this entire thing. So obviously you could see that they're going to be dead tired afterwards. You got to put it on last, man. I know the Undisputed Championship, this was during a time where the WWF title always went on last no matter what. Obviously that continued to change over the years. We have seen plenty of times a non-title matchup that just has two big stars main event over a championship match. We've seen it in recent years, and I'm sure it will happen again in the future sometime. But Hulk Hogan versus The Rock in 2002 absolutely should have been the main event to WrestleMania 18. And if we're pretending here just to make it a little bit harder on myself when I was fantasy booking that we can't just go Hogan versus Austin, then I'm going to keep Hogan versus Rock because you already know the result we're going to get, and that's a classic matchup between both guys. And honestly, if I were to book Hogan versus Stone Cold, then maybe you can place just Rock in Austin's spot against Triple H and figure out the story from there. I don't know how that would have affected my my choices for a match card here, but that was the first thing I did when rebooking this card is, all right, we're not going to do Hogan versus Austin because that's what everyone expects to do. So let me do Hogan versus Rock and make this a little bit harder on myself, like I said, and book the rest of the card from there. Figure out something else for Austin that isn't just a match against against Scott Hall, which no disrespect to the late great Scott Hall, but that was kind of an odd matchup for Stone Cold at WrestleMania that year, especially coming off of WrestleMania 17, one of, as many people mentioned, possibly the greatest WrestleMania of all time, that ended in such a high fashion with Austin turning heel against The Rock, joining up with Vince McMahon, then going a year later to battle Scott Hall. Just kind of doesn't even out. So I think we gave Austin a better matchup here, and we still get Hogan versus The Rock in the main event. So I think it's a win-win overall. But that is how I would rebook WrestleMania 18, March 18th, 2002, Sky Dome, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I like doing these rebookings, man. I don't go too deep into the storylines. I give you a little bit, and we're focusing on the match card here and just trying to make an overall better show. And again, as I've said multiple times, I enjoy WrestleMania 18, but I think when you look at the talent card, I think you can place them in different spots and make an overall better card in my personal opinion. But hey, let me know what you guys think of my card. Do you think it's better than real life? Do you think real life's better? I won't be offended, so let me know down below in the comments. Hell, put your own rebooked WrestleMania 18 match card in the comment section as well. I'd love to see what you guys do with this same talent, but in your own, imagination. Put that down below in the comments as well. Thank you guys for checking out this video. If you want to support me, you can hit the like button down below, as well as hit subscribe. You can also join the channel to receive some exclusive perks and also check out the Noah Nation merch store. All of that linked down below. More rebookings, fantasy bookings, discussions, all that good stuff to come. Not sure what's next, but I like to just go with the flow. So we'll be back sometime soon, right here on the Noah Nation Wrestling YouTube channel. Thank you guys for checking out this video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.